The first rule of Fight Club is that we don't talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is that we don't talk about Fight Club. So how the hell am I going to review this movie? So welcome back to the channel, everyone, and welcome to a new movie review, a new movie that I've never watched before, voted for by you. Yes, you had the choice to vote for this film, to vote for my next unwatched movie, and thusly Fight Club came in top with a total of 47% of the votes against Donnie Darko getting 29% and Zulu getting 25%. So here I am. I watched Fight Club. Yes. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you 3 more options, and in about a week's time, I'll put up a poll for you to choose one of those 3 movies for my next unwatched film review. So Fight Club. Okay, first of all, Fight Club. Okay, it's a film that has never really interested me. I know it gets a lot of plaudits. I know that it's highly rated. I mean, on Rotten Tomatoes, I did have a look after the fact. Its audience score is 96% and its critic score is 79%. So it's a film adored by a lot of people. That being said, like I said, I don't know, just the idea of Fight Club, just it didn't sort of intrigue me. I suppose my mind went to sort of cage fighting and this sort of thing, and that sort of thing holds no real grasp on me. That being said, obviously I've sat down and now watched it. So what did I think? Well, we'll get into that. But this film here, it came out in 1999. Here in the UK, it came out on the November the 12th of that particular year. Directed by David Fincher and written by Chuck Palahniuk and Jim Uhls. I don't know what they've written prior to this. Obviously, the film stars Brad Pitt as Tyler Durden, Edward Norton as the narrator, Meatloaf pops up in the film. He's got quite a substantial role, actually, as Robert Paulson, and Helen Bonham Carter as Marla Singer. The film had a budget of $63 million and went on to gross worldwide in the region of 102, not taking into account DVD sales and things like that at the worldwide box office this is. So, the film itself, obviously we're introduced to Edward Norton's unnamed character, the narrator, and he's a fella who's dealing with some sort of social anxieties. He's unable to sleep at night, and he's going to all of these different support groups for different things, and he's trying to find a place for him to fit. And he's lying about a lot of things. He'll go into cancer support groups and things like this, and he comes across and meets a woman played by Helena Bonham Carter, Marla Singer, who is there doing exactly the same thing as him, and they have a little bit of a back and forth, and they decide to split days because him having her there interferes with his lies and all this sort of a thing. He then subsequently meets Tyler Durden, played by Brad Pitt, who's a soap salesman, someone who's somewhat more flamboyant than him, better looking, better physique, better dressed, all this sort of thing, more outgoing, and this leads to them basically. It leads to the narrator trying to find something, he's trying to find something in himself, and they get enjoyment. Him and this guy gets enjoyment out of the physicality of pain, and this causes them to set up a fight club, and it brings more and more individuals into the mix, and but it starts growing more than that. It starts growing into like an army of people, almost an army of terrorists, people who go out and they get homework assignments to go and cause havoc out there in the streets. And obviously it leads on to bigger and bigger and bigger and broader things. Do I really want to go into the nitty gritty? Yeah, of course I do. I mean, the film's been out for 24 years. So if you haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil it now anyway. But if you don't know what happens, then I didn't go into this film blind, okay? I knew the twist. I knew what was coming. I knew that Tyler Durden was a construct of the narrator's mind, Edward Norton's mind. I knew they were one and the same person. I knew the little snippets of, where Tyler Durden's like intercut into the video and just sort of pops up, in one frame and all this sort of stuff. I knew all of that. I knew the ending with the explosion, the bombs going off, all this sort of stuff. So none of that came as a surprise to me. However, and that in itself probably detracted from the film, from my viewing experience. It certainly did, because, there's the scene where Tyler Durden's dragging the fella into the bathroom and Edward Norton's coming in afterwards. But I'm guessing by the end you come to realise that Edward Norton coming in afterwards didn't actually happen. And what happened was just Edward Norton was the geezer who dragged him in, if that makes sense. But there's sort of things like that I started questioning. Well, how can this be one and the same person? Also, at the very end, when they're having their final fight, fair enough, but there's scenes of him being dragged along by his foot by essentially an invisible individual and all this sort of thing. So I had to leave my I was questioning quite a considerable amount of the movie. However, that being said, this is a good film. It's a taut thriller more than anything else. It's got great characters, great character interaction. Helena Bonham Carter delivers a fantastic performance, probably one of her best that I've seen, or that I've enjoyed her in. Brad Pitt is great as Tyler. Edward Norton, obviously spot on. They're your main primary cast members, and the film has enough going on. The conflict between Edward Norton and Tyler, when Edward Norton's obviously, he likes the girl, but it's Tyler that's the one that's sleeping with her, and what he wants out of Fight Club compared to what he wants out of Fight Club, and all this sort of thing, what he's building up. There's a sort of rivalry in the mix, and the film ends on quite a poetic note in that, at the finale of the film, Edward Norton sort of overcome his troubles. He's overcome his anxieties, his social constructs that he's created, all this sort of a thing, and he doesn't need that. But this is at the point of the explosions and this sort of a thing. Obviously, I'm wondering how I'd feel on a second watch. Like I said, certainly the first watch was ruined, and I haven't got out of it what other people get out of the film when they first saw it without knowing the ending, because I didn't go in without that knowledge. I knew that knowledge, but otherwise it was a well acted, a well crafted, well written, well directed, and fantastically shot movie. The soundtrack, I honestly cannot tell you one thing about the soundtrack of this film. I cannot recall anything that stood out to me in that respect, in that regard. But yeah, it was a good film, and I'm enjoying doing this. I'm enjoying the fact that this is making me, doing this series and you voting on it is making me watch films that I haven't seen before. So that brings me on to the next choices, the 3 next movies that you get the opportunity to vote on. So let's get into that now. Okay, so I'm going to reject Zulu from the rankings now, from the possible choices. I'm going to reject that one for the time being. Zulu will come back round again, though. So I'm going to put Donnie Darko back in, because that was the runner-up of the last poll. That one goes in, and two new films. I'm going to go with The Godfather. Yes, I haven't seen The Godfather. That sort of Italian mafia-esque kind of storytelling holds little to no interest for me, I'll be honest. I don't know why. Obviously, I've seen some films like The Untouchables and things like that. But I think where I was younger when Godfather came out, I just wasn't interested. I wasn't interested. That being said, I do have the trilogy on Blu-ray because the wife picked him up on one visit into CEX. So I do have the film to watch. So we've got Donnie Darko, we've got Godfather, and I'm going to pick another Tom Cruise title for you. As you know, I've said before that I'm not a fan of young Tom Cruise. I never was. I preferred Tom Cruise as he got older, sort of around the Mission Impossible 2 era and beyond. That's when I sort of more got into his... I mean, I only saw Top Gun because of Top Gun Part 2. So I'm going to put in Rain Man. Yes, Rain Man. Now, I think Rain Man's got more of an appeal to me because of Dustin Hoffman and the nature of the story, although I don't know too much about it. But I think it'll be one that's more an easier watch than, say, something like Days of Thunder, because I've got little interest in racing. And other films like Cocktail, I've got no interest in a barman doing whatever he does in that. So Rain Man is my choice. So there you go. You got your 3 options. And in a week's time, I'll put up a poll and you get to tell me which of these 3 I review next for you. This is AJ. Comments down below, always welcome. Hit that subscribe button. Come and join the channel. And I shall see you all later. Take care and goodbye.